wishing to speak at open forum?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'd ask you to introduce yourself for the record, and then you have 3 minutes, and the lights go from green to yellow at the 2.5-minute mark, and at 3 minutes, the red comes on, and you need to wrap it up. Thank you very much. Welcome to the committee.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Terry Neuberger. I represent the Teamsters Local 320. I'm a business agent there, and I represent the juvenile correction officers within your county. I'm here to speak about a scheduling issue. This is a matter of scheduling juvenile correction officers in the Juvenile Detention Center and homeschool to 12-hour shifts versus 8-hour shifts. The juvenile correction officers have not requested a 12-hour day, nor do they believe this will be a positive change. In fact, on the contrary, the JCOs believe this will compound the problem. In a 2016 survey of juvenile correction officers, of the most common responses on why employees leave, at or near the bottom of the list was dissatisfaction with the work schedule. Listed above dissatisfaction with the work schedule was a lack of faith in management and staff, and/or feeling that management did not poor job of actually managing the department. The dissatisfaction with employee schedules is directly connected to the perception of a poor ability to manage, not with the actual schedule itself. Should this schedule change go through, it will only further embed the perception that management does not understand the needs of the department or listen to the needs of the staff. Also, this type of irregular work schedule causes challenges with family schedules, daycare arrangements, and overall morale in the department. Requiring the same amount of staff members to work the hours per day only shifts the burden temporarily. This is a simple math equation. There are a required number of man-hours necessary to perform the duties responsibly. There are other unintended consequences of shifting the work schedule. Requiring 12-hour shifts drastically increases the daily stress level of correction officers by increasing their daily exposure to workplace stressors. There will still be required overtime when existing staff need to cover for time off for other officers, especially unexpected time off due to illness, emergency. On-duty staff are asked to cover this time, which exponentially increases the overtime and exposure to workplace stressors. In an already high-stress environment, overexposure to workplace stressors decrease staff patience, tolerance to residents' behavior, and increased staff burnout, ultimately resulting in a higher turnover rate. If the decision is made to require correction officers to work 12-hour shifts, the burden of understaffing is shifted from management to staff, giving a temporary appearance that the problem is solved, only to compound the challenge and further degrade the relationship between staff and administration. The proper time to address scheduling is at the bargaining table. We currently have a bargaining agreement that's in place through the end of 2018. Changes to terms and conditions of employment mid-contract is not only not in good faith, but could also constitute an unfair labor practice. I have copies of petitions that I would like to get, that I have a copy for each board member. These petitions were signed by over 95% of each member in each facility.
All right.
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Those will get distributed. Thank you very much for being here today.
My name is Greg Ensign. I'm an employee at the Hennepin County Homeschool. I addressed the board today to express my concerns regarding the negative impacts 12-hour shifts will have on the voices that cannot be heard, our clients. I work with juveniles at the county homeschool who have committed sexual offenses or have sexual problems that disrupt their lives. These youth often arrive to our program with hypersexual tendencies and a moderate to high risk of reoffending. What we know about youth who have sexually acted out is behavior change occurs as a result of the ability to build and strengthen a therapeutic relationship or alliance. No matter the program theory or evidence-based practice you implement, this change does not occur as a result of a weakened therapeutic alliance or relationship. Our clients are here long-term for a reason, and it takes time and consistency to build these relationships. Subsequently, strengthening these relationships lead to behavior change and improves each youth's ability to live productive, responsible lives when they return to their families and community. Ultimately, 12-hour shifts undermine our ability to be responsive and reliable for our clients, and rotating schedules are not conducive with our therapeutic milieu, which requires scheduling to be consistent and predictable. If for no other reason, I encourage the 12-hour shift program to be walked back for the consequences it poses to the clients we serve. I appreciate the board's time and consideration in this matter. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello. My name is Nancy Bothwell. I'm a 26-year employee at the Hennepin County Homeschool, a juvenile correctional officer. I'm going to be addressing the employee impact of working 12-hour rotating shifts as others are discussing the impact of those we serve, which are the residents of the county homeschool, the Juvenile Detention Center, and the ACF, otherwise known as the Workhouse. In 2008, I received the Healthy Workforce Award presented by Commissioner Opat, who was at the time the chair of this committee. I received this award for setting up a seminar at the homeschool titled Healthy Choices for Shift Workers. This was set up through the Hennepin County Employee Assistance Program. In addition to that, I would also speak to new employees. I would also hand out information I received from the Employee Assistant Program on how to adapt to working primarily overnights, but also other shifts that impact our personal lives. From the seminar, I would like to quote the material. Shift workers have a higher rate of heart disease, increased blood pressure, gastrointestinal issues, weight gain, substance abuse, depression, and in 2007, the cancer arm of the World Health Organization classified shift work as a probable carcinogen. The Star Tribune on November 5th put out a newspaper article titled States Struggle to Crack Down on Drowsy Driving. And there is great concern about us working 12-hour shifts and driving after that. And briefly, I'd like to quote from the Star Tribune. Drowsy drivers' judgment may be impaired and their reaction time slowed, just like drunken drivers. Their driving often mimics alcohol-impaired driving, with the car weaving between lanes or drifting off the road. Among those most vulnerable, shift and night workers, teens and adults, and truck and bus drivers. Why many people have said, well, police and nurse work 12-hour shifts. In this article, it states, Maryland will launch an educational and social media campaign aimed at medical workers. This is becoming a huge issue across the country. The woman who wrote that article is with the, basing it on Pew Research. Another issue that was discussed on why we're moving to shifts is retention of new employees, as a quarter of DOCCR will be retiring in the next 5 years. With the permission, I was given to name names. Mr. Killen, a juvenile correctional officer, was just hired August of this year, August 7th, 2017. He was referred here by a current employee. Both gentlemen are from Liberia and came to this country to make a better life. Mr. Killen came here to the homeschool on referral as he was told he could work overnights so that he could work on his master's degree during the week. Okay. Mr. Killen said he gave up a $50,000 human resources job from 8 to 4 a.m. so that he could work weekends to pursue his master's degree. In conclusion, I would like to say that the intentions of the county may have been good to get employees' weekend off, save money for the county. I believe this is misguided. We would be going backwards. Hennepin County promotes wellness. I hope you will take these comments into consideration. Thank you.
Welcome.
Commissioners, my name is Cepeda. I'm a JCO at the Hennepin County Homeschool, and I'm also a movie buff, as you will see by my speech. What we've got here is a failure to communicate. At the county homeschool we teach our residents effective communication. Effective communication is less focused on talking and more focused on listening. You have communicated to us that all the JCOs need to go to 12-hour shifts. 98% of our union has adamantly opposed this as it will have an adverse effect on our treatment that we provide, the safety that we ensure to our kids and to our teammates, and the overall quality of our personal lives. You are effectively communicating to the residents of the county homeschool that you are not concerned about their treatment. You are effectively communicating that our personal lives are nowhere near as important as the financial agenda that you have had fed to you by the Nexus report. You can't handle the truth. Were the implementation of 12-hour shifts actually a good idea, you would have buy-in from the union. Is it possible that the implementation of the 12-hour shift is beneficial to only those who it doesn't affect? The truth is that there has to be an implementation of the 12-hour shifts because it may look rather wasteful to have a company come in, recommend some changes, and then not implement any of them, regardless of how unnecessary and dangerous they are. Excuse me. It also makes one wonder why the changes are mandatory for the county homeschool, JDC, and ACF, but not those employees at the electronic home monitoring unit. The truth is that 12-hour shifts are a bad idea for everyone. The residents of the JDC and county homeschool whose lives are already in a state of upheaval, they will have to deal with yet another upheaval in their lives. The residents of Hennepin County who will be forced to pay overtime for every JCO every week when it could be avoided. The Hennepin County Human Resources Department that will have to deal with filling the positions of JCOs that leave the county due to unreasonable working conditions. The supervisors at the JDC and county homeschool that will be forced to work 12-hour shifts as well. The list goes on. The truth is that 12-hour shifts have a negative effect on many facets of the county. Is it safe? The implementation of 12-hour shifts is unsafe. The residents will be monitored by JCOs that are, if they are lucky, getting 6 hours of sleep before each shift. This puts the county at risk for residents getting hurt. It puts the JCOs at risk for being hurt after their 12-hour shift going home driving. The 12-hour shifts put a focus on manning the facilities, but does not focus on the treatment and therapy for the residents. How are we being responsible to the overall agenda of the DOCCR to reduce recidivism through therapy when we are moving away from treatment and focusing only on manning the institutions? 12-hour shifts are not safe for anyone involved in the county, residents of the JDC and county homeschool, employees of the county homeschool and the JDC, constituents of Hennepin County. They are fiscally irresponsible. They are unsafe, antithetical to treatment, and a bad idea. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Welcome to the committee.
Good afternoon. My name is John Anula, and I've been a juvenile corrections officer at the Hennepin County Homeschool for over 28 years. I work directly with the school staff at District 287 at the county homeschool. For those in attendance from the board, I will be passing out a copy of our petition when I'm completed with this reading. This is a signed statement by school staff who work for District 287 at the Hennepin County Homeschool. We support the current practice that allows JCO staff to provide important consistency, predictability, and stability. Current practice creates the most effective environment for learning in the school setting. Current JCO staffing creates an effective cohesion and partnership between juvenile corrections officers and the school staff that is vital in providing an educational environment for the clients we serve. Staffing JCOs on a rotating 12-hour schedule will greatly reduce the current consistency and negatively affect the students that we serve. Now, that was a signed petition by the school staff that I work with. I can just say that I could not find a single teacher, an educational assistant, or school staff in 287 at the county homeschool who would not sign our petition. That said, the educational professionals are virtually 100% unanimously against the 12-hour rotating shifts. Now, we can all recognize and acknowledge how vital education is to the development of our young people's lives. This educational experience is even more critical to the clients we serve who have much greater educational and behavioral challenges. This consistent staffing creates the best environment for the clients to learn and develop. Mr. Chet Cooper has decided to force us into 12-hour shifts. All of the Hennepin County staff you see here today, this is bigger than just a bunch of crusty old corrections officers with decades of service not wanting to change shift patterns. There are other large issues such as education and therapeutic milieu. Changing to 12-hour shifts will certainly have a very negative effect on the already very challenged clients we serve. Thank you for providing us time today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Board and Commissioners. I want to thank you for the opportunity to present about the concerns about the 12-hour shift pattern. My name is Jim Rosno, and I'm a juvenile correctional officer at the county home school. I've worked out there for 28 years, as well as having attained my license in social work. While there are many concerns, I've chosen to focus more on group expectations and on guidelines and how this decision is affecting the youth that we serve. Part of group therapy is that there's partnership with the youth. This is gained through building relationships with them, through having consistent facilitators in groups, through regularly scheduled groups, and through maintaining confidentiality with them. When applied to our own personal lives, I would ask if we would stop and think about if we had a medical condition, would we want to go see a bunch of different doctors or follow up consistently with the same doctor in medical care? If we were seeking any sort of psychiatric help or any sort of counseling with ourselves or our family members, would we want to see the same therapist, or would we want to be on a rotating basis? 1 week I see this therapist and 1 week I'm going to see a different therapist. To me, that just doesn't seem reasonable, and yet that's what we're asking the youth to do. We're asking teenagers who are dysregulated to make adjustments in their lives. These young men and women, many have had multiple traumatic experiences in their lives, are being subjected to the expectations to flip back and forth between staff on an every 2 or 3 day basis on a rotating schedule, as well as having different staff facilitate their groups each week. They come to our program lacking stability in their lives, needing to learn through consistent expectations, and it's unfair for the youth that we serve to expect them to adjust to the different staff on a regular basis. I worked in the Focus program at the county home school, which is the girls program, for the past 6 years. Over time, when I've developed relationships with these young ladies, they'd start to disclose issues that have gone on in their lives. And these issues include being abused, being neglected, being raped, being sex trafficked. It's beyond belief and way outside of therapeutic guidelines of individual and group therapy to expect them to continue the healing process by having them share and then potentially feel re-victimized by having to talk about these experiences with someone else after they've already shared with their primary group meeting. And one of the young women that I work with, upon hearing about the rotating shifts that were being discussed at the county home school, looked at me and she asked, why would they do this? They being referring to the administration. It's been hard enough for me to start trusting you guys, just enough to share my own information. I wouldn't want to share anything if they did this. For the sake of the youth, for those that we are called to serve, to teach, to counsel, and to help, I ask that they not be subjected to the detrimental effects that are contrary to providing trauma-informed care in a therapeutic environment. Thank you.
I'm Michael Swartz. I'm a JCO at the Hennepin County Home School. I've been there for 28 years. And while I'm talking, I'll just ask you to put a picture in your mind, if you have children, dealing with your child on a really bad day for him for 12 hours straight. Multiply that by 3 days in a row. I go back to when Hennepin and Ramsey were considering merging in the public fear that it would be just a super prison for juveniles and that it would only be a place to house criminals and the children would become institutionalized. At that time, I believed these citizens were misinformed. But now I wonder. I think they were right. Recently, I had a mandatory training, cultural and diversity training, and we watched the documentary called 13th. It's about mass incarceration. And one thing that struck me about it is talking about the institutionalization of corrections and how institutions of corrections are becoming nothing but a place to hold criminals. This goes completely against evidence-based practice, yet this is what's happening at the DOCCR with 12-hour shifts. 12-hour shifts are the product of Matrix, a study done by an outside group that is part of the institutionalization of corrections, looking at it as just a money perspective and not as what we do as JCOs. When they came out, they didn't even consider talking to the social workers about treatment and how essential the JCOs are to that treatment. They have no clue of the various parts of treatment JCOs are involved in. They just say 12-hour shifts are an industrial standard. Well, people are not products. Corrections should not be looked at as an industry. We are not an industry. We are about helping these troubled youth. Other evidence of the county turning to this industrial model is rising. They were mentioned, that's our medical unit at the home school and at JDC. They were mentioned actually in the documentary 13th. I ask you now to go back to that picture and multiply it with 12 children at the same time, who at 1 minute can be the most pleasant person on earth, and the next minute escalate to a point of being dangerous. Add to that residents being in various areas, and you are responsible to know where all residents are. And add to that other various responsibilities JCOs have. Now you have to do that for 12 hours, 3 days in a row. It would be, something has to give, and it can't be safety. We will not have the energy to do all the one-to-ones, processing with the residents, helping with groups, holding groups, and other treatment activities. You would not have enough energy to do it for 12 hours. I've worked 10-hour shifts, and now because of my seniority, I have 8-hour shifts. The energy I have left after working 8 hours compared to 10 hours is incredible.
Did you try to finish up, sir?
Yep, I'm sorry. 12-hour shifts are, okay. No. Our name badges say serving residents. I have to ask, are the residents of the county homeschools not residents of Hennepin County? Moving to an industrial model is a disservice to the residents of the county homeschool.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Anybody else wish to speak at open forum? Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Perouse, and I've been a corrections officer at the Juvenile Detention Center for over 22 years now. We've seen lots of changes. Some I think have made our facility a lot better. The proposed 12-hour shifts, though, is not something that's better. It's not better for the staff. It's not better for the residents that we're there to serve. Staff will not have the energy it takes to deal with 12 youth who all have needs that we're trying to meet. We're not an adult facility, we're a juvenile facility. Everything the kids do in our facility, we have a part in. From the time they wake up in the morning and we're serving them breakfast. Then we have to get clothes ready for them to shower. And we spend all our day in school with them. They don't go anywhere without us. We don't get to drop them off and come back and get them later. We spend all day with them, meeting their needs, trying to identify the behaviors before they escalate. These kids are struggling with all kinds of issues, and we're there for them. To have staff who are there 2 days today, well, I'll see in another 2 days, and flip-flopping back and forth with no consistent staff working pattern A under the proposed change would never see pattern B staff. It's kind of like, I don't know, I'm a child of divorce. You know, parents here, 2 days at this parent's house, 2 days at that parent's house. You know, there's no consistency. And when those parents, or in our case, staff, don't have the opportunity to communicate because their shifts never will overlap, we'll never see each other, we'll never get to develop that continuity to make the best place possible for the residents who are in our care. You know, JDC has seen a lot of overtime this year. And I know that, you know, the county has a responsibility to the residents of Hennepin County to, you know, keep to a budget to get that under control. But this is not the answer. I think we found the answer at JDC to that problem. We've finally got a full complement of staff. In June of this year, we we were down over 20% of our line staff. That's a lot of open positions. And it was filled with overtime, a lot of it forced overtime. Since June of this year, we've hired over 12 full-time JCOs. We've hired 3 or 4 more intermittent staff. And now our forcing and our overtime has decreased to almost nothing. Our problem was not with the schedules we had. Our problem was with not posting the position. Now we've gone to a continuous posting for the JCO position, something I personally asked us to do for the last 3 years. I'm happy we've finally done that. And now we'll have those jobs filled, and we'll be able to stick with our budget. Again, I like to just consider the fact that the problem was not with the patterns we had. The problem was with the fact that we weren't filling them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.